Now, breaking news on Northwest Cable News.
We now want to head back to downtown Seattle, where Vice President and presidential candidate Al Gore is speaking at a public forum.
Well, it's an excellent question and one of vital importance to this region and to our whole country. And there's one fact that stands out above all the others in my way of thinking about this. 96% of all of the potential customers for what we make here in the United States live in foreign countries. The population growth rate in the developing countries of the world is far more rapid than the one here in the United States or in Europe or North Asia. And so obviously the future of the growth in markets for our products is in the rest of the world. And Seattle is right on the cutting edge, obviously. You've been oriented toward the Pacific Rim and trading in all parts of the world for quite a long time. You're leading our nation in that new awareness. And your labor community and environmental community have been very creative in helping to point the way for our whole nation to integrate the labor and environmental concerns and child labor concerns into the negotiation of agreements that open up new markets in ways that promote higher standards and the values that we hold dear here in the United States. I come from a tradition that has always promoted free and fair trade, because in that small town of Carthage that I mentioned earlier, there was a man named Cordell Hull who was congressman before long before I was born, and later became Secretary of State, and he established a tradition there. And most folks in our area have always looked on it pretty much the way people in Seattle, in this area, have looked on it. This is a good thing if you go about it in the right way. But one of the things that he said many years ago was this. He said, if goods do not cross borders, armies do. Now that was said in another era, but it embodies a truth that I think is still relevant today. You look at what's been happening in the European Common Market, now the European Union. When they started trading freely, the relationships on a political basis became so much friendly. And I think that what we're seeing in our day and time today is a new pattern in the world. The world is coming together with all problems and all opportunities increasingly defined in a global context. And trade is helping to lead the way toward the creation of that new approach. We've got to go about it in the right way, but I've worked so closely with you here in your ports, and I've worked with you in the business community and the labor community, and I am committed to expanding markets in the right way, protecting labor and the environment.
Thank you. Okay, good. Dan Fine, very good. A successful Washington business owner. How have you used the opportunities of the new economy to build your own business here?
Thank you, Mrs. Gore.
Thank you.
You know, my business is all about the new economy. I started an e-commerce company back in the early days. We were a pioneer, I think it was 94. That's 1994.
Wow.
But we started up to help companies launch on the internet with websites. And what was tough about it back then was that a lot of companies didn't understand what to do. And this has created an opportunity for our company, Find.com, to be able to leverage this for people, to be able to build the sites, to teach them the tools about wrapping themselves around the customer. And that's going to be a challenge for businesses as we move into the new millennium, is how do you move from a product-driven company into a new business model where you're wrapping yourself around the customer. So this has been a great opportunity for Find.com. We started as a small company, just myself, very little capital. We went public in 1997 on NASDAQ. So it's created a great opportunity for me, my family, our employees. But I did want to ask a question, because this brings to mind a question that I wanted to ask the current Vice President, what I think is going to be the most intelligent and savvy president this country's ever seen.
Thank you.
I'm not buttering you up. I really believe that. I really believe that.
Shucks.com.
And you know what? I'm going to email you if you're not. Anyways, I want to know, since I am a small business person, I'm not small, but a small business person, if you think the new economy, how that's going to affect, is it going to just help big business, large enterprises, and is it going to leave the small business and the entrepreneurs behind?
Oh, I think you probably know the answer to that even better than I do. It's going to be quite the opposite. It's going to emphasize the success of entrepreneurs and small businesses. And you're going to see investments made by large businesses in spinning off small businesses. In fact, a lot of them are already doing that. You see with, well, let me put it this way. And, you know, for me to tell you, Dan, about this is, thanks for putting up with it. Let me tell another story. This is a story from business. Early in this century, they came up with the electric motor. And they thought that the electric motor was going to change everything and make everything more efficient and lead to tremendous advances in productivity. And they put it in the factories, and nothing happened. And they couldn't figure out why. And then they realized the old factories were built in that era for steam. And they were tall and vertical with fan belts coming off on every floor. And they put those electric engines in there, and they couldn't do their thing. And finally, after some time passed, they tore down the old factories and built new ones, low, flat to the ground. The electric motors could be optimized for their efficiency, and all of a sudden, there was a huge surge in productivity. Well, what's happening now with the internet and the microprocessing revolution and Moore's law and the rapid advances in microprocessing power is that for many years, people were saying, this new thing we're calling the computer, this new device we call the microprocessor, it's going to revolutionize business and lead to new productivity. And they put them in the businesses and nothing happened. In the sense that for many years, there were no productivity gains that they could measure as a result of that happening. But then they got rid of the old organizational forms and redesigned the way businesses operated, and now, right now, we're seeing a tremendous surge in productivity as businesses have figured out how to use the internet, how to use microprocessing and computers to bring dramatic efficiencies. And one of the things that they're learning is that when you have a new idea, it doesn't necessarily make sense to put that new idea into an old context, into an older, established, large business that's been designed in another time for another purpose, because that idea may not be able to do its thing. You may not be able to get the most out of that new idea. But if, on the contrary, you have a small business designed by an entrepreneur who's excited by that new idea, and the whole structure, the physical structure and the human organizational structure is optimized to take advantage of that new innovation, then that's when it really is unleashed. And that's why I think we're seeing this tremendous explosion in the number of new internet companies, new small businesses that are built around a single idea. And they look, for example, at eBay. Boy, you could take your company too, but take eBay, which started as a clearinghouse for trading used Pez dispensers. And now it's one of the hottest trading floors around. Your company would be another example. So in my opinion, the real advantages of this are going to be seen more in small businesses than in large businesses. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely, yeah.
What would you recommend that we do in order to accelerate that process?
It's all about education, so your program is right on. I mean, we have to start bringing kids and training them right in preschool up through kindergarten into the colleges, and the better we train them with education, the more we can accelerate this economy. Just
well, thank you. I agree with that, and I appreciate your comment very much. Thank you.
And you are watching a live public forum with Vice President Al Gore in downtown Seattle. We will once again take a short break, but we will be